morning and welcome to your Daily Game Face. I'm Dr. Kim Lannon.
What are you laughing at?
Well, because of what I just said. And then when I entered the show to say, welcome to your Daily Game Face, the other thing ran through my head. You made me giggle. You made me giggle.
Well, it's my job.
I know. Well, it is a good part of your job. So welcome to the show, everybody. I'm sorry that we weren't here last week. The rugs were being done in the building of the studio, and so therefore we couldn't do the show.
They're doing downstairs today, and I walked into carpet glue, so lost a pair of shoes.
Well, if you're watching today, I'm actually coming live from my office in Bedford, Massachusetts. So you get to have a little slice of my background.
Oh, this is the office. Oh, nice. I haven't seen the office.
Oh, you what? Did my show from here before?
Have we?
Yeah, okay. I have. But that's okay.
Well, I didn't know it was your office then.
Office at my home. I have two offices at home, an upstairs and a downstairs. Usually you're in my upstairs office, but today I'm in my office because, sometimes life gets in the way. I've already had a full morning of stuff before I even did this. When you have fur babies, life.
Oh, God, yeah.
I should play the video and the audio of the sound that came out of my 1.5-year-old Egyptian now Bengal mix in the car this morning when he went for his physical.
God.
I had to go through a police detail that was doing construction work, and I had to roll the windows up because it sounded like I was slaughtering the cat in the car. Because his scream was so bad. I was like, yeah. And I have to keep the windows open because it's so piercing that
Oh yeah, we needed video.
Oh, I have audio, so okay. We could get an audio clip. Maybe at the end I'll play the audio clip. I'll bring it up, but nonetheless.
Wow.
So anyway, so here we are. I wanted first to put out that if people are listening, I have a fall women's retreat coming. It's the reboot of my spring one, but it's a retreat on November 6th, 7th, and 8th. Making sure I have the right dates. November 6th, 7th, and 8th, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in Holderness, New Hampshire. It's Rest, Restore, and Rise. It's going to have massage therapy. It's going to have healing circles. It's going to have Reiki. It's going to have chiropractic care, nutritional stuff. It's got procured beautiful breakfast at the Inn on Golden Pond. And if you would like to register, there's only 10 spots left. So if you'd like to register, you can contact me through kim.lannon@yahoo.com, or you can call me on the number on your screen or text me at that. And also, if you'd like to be on the list to get I'm having trouble with words today, to get the registration, please sign up for that. It's actually early bird special is $999 for the weekend. And so it's a great price for a really cool week of resetting yourself and really getting together with a bunch of women and sharing and being together. I will be doing a co-ed and a men's weekend as well. But right now I'm doing women's weekends, and this retreat, it is like a workshop as well, so that it's about getting together. Nothing is mandatory. It's just about coming and relaxing, but it is to come and, walk through the woods and do nature therapy and doing healing circles and having some nice downtime and beautifully appointed rooms at this beautiful inn on a beautiful lake in New Hampshire. Nice. And I'm welcoming people to come and sign up ASAP. Only 10 spots left. So come on over and sign up. That was my first thing. So please sign up or let me know in the chat if you'd like information on it. I will be putting it up on my soon to be newly put up website that I'm actually doing myself. I'm a woman. Many talent. Thank you for laughing. Let's tell the other things that I'm doing.
No, that was proudly laughing.
You're proudly laughing. Oh, yes. Thank you. Thanks, Dad.
Stop.
I know. But I just wanted to put that out there because I'm going to start just making sure that people know that, because I really want to get that filled up. And the experience when you have a whole group of people together and share a universal shared experience is really important, because people can learn from each other and share and just relax and in the spirit of Rise. So for people that are listening that are men, it's coming for you as well, but it just hasn't been planned yet. We're just probably going to do one in the spring or later in the winter. And it will be tailored around men's growth and rising. So nonetheless, $999 for the whole weekend, a Friday to a Sunday afternoon. Beautiful. Come spend time with me in the mountains and reset yourself. So on that topic of rising, right?
Yes.
I wanted to just take a few minutes. Because I had the week away from doing this. So I had a lot of thoughts on like, okay, where am I going from this point for July? What are we, July 5th? No, I mean,
August
5th. Oh my God. Yeah, August 5th. There's where my head is. So I was thinking about lots of things that come up for people in terms of, doing the Rise project this year and what has happened. And so I kind of wrote some things down, and it helps me. But I actually put something together that I wanted to kind of go through and as I always do, but I did a little bit more formally this time because I had a lot of time to think about it. So what I titled it in my head was "When Peace Feels Boring Because Chaos Raised You." There's my title. Right.
Wow.
So people are often in chaotic patterns, and we talk about the chaos loop and people being like, I love the familiarity of the devil that I know, even though it's bad for me. So what I wanted to talk about was something that I don't think gets talked enough in healing conversations. And people don't put it in the context of healing. They just put it in the context of like, oh, it's chaos. It's the devil I know. It's the fear of the unknown. I don't want to move forward. So I get a lot of people that will come in and do like really great therapy sessions and do really great life coaching sessions, and then notice when their life starts to become peaceful after a session or two of having some really good stuff, a part of them misses the chaos and will go back to it, right? And people don't do that because they actually want to suffer, but because the chaos feels so familiar. And the chaos is what you grew up in. And that's why I've titled it so appropriately, I think, is that, when peace feels boring, and I use boring, put in your term, when peace feels unfamiliar, peace feels uncomfortable, that's because the chaos has raised you. And because chaos is so familiar, it's the devil that so to speak, right? So if you grew up in environments where you always had to be alert, periscope up, right? Anticipate someone's mood, fix their problems, or prepare for the next crisis. Your nervous system, or your polyvagal, if I talk about it in classes, your nervous system learns that chaos is normal, right? So people oftentimes in my office will say, well, that's not how life is, because that's not normal. My normal is this, right? So whatever they grew up in was their normal. That doesn't mean it's the norm of what is healthy. It means that that's what their norm is. So they think that they'll fight for that. People will fight for the chaos to stay in that because that's what they know. So that when life begins to actually settle, your mind doesn't interpret that as safety. So when your mind starts to come to peace and rest, that's so unfamiliar and uncomfortable for people in their polyvagal nerve and their system and their central nervous system overall, that is just so unsettling that it feels unsafe when it's actually so safe, right? So sometimes your body will interpret that as boredom, like, oh, I'm kind of bored. Why? Because you're not activated. Sometimes your body will feel, or your mind and body will feel together, like you're in danger because you're on like, wait a second. If I'm not looking for something, if I don't have my periscope up searching for something on alert, then there must be danger because I'm so used to having something come along, right? So, excuse me, as you know, I had a coughing fit before this. So for a long time, people often say to me, I feel like a constant need to be moving or staying ahead or running, right? I will often comment like, people, you're running from something, right? They feel like they need to feel alive. They feel like they need to solve a problem. If they're not solving a problem, if they're not worrying about something like meta worry or pushing themselves harder, then somehow they're falling behind. And then maybe they say, I'm failing or I'm disappointing myself or others. Now, what you have to realize is that's not ambition, that's survival. People go into survival mode because of the chaos. So, in survival has a very different rhythm than peace. But people get high, they get a charge out of the survival mode because that's the dopamine rush that they get because that's what chaos gives them. So, survival has a very different rhythm, a fast, chaotic rhythm. It's kind of like when people are having PTSD reactions, or they've been at war, or they've had an abusive situation at home, or whatever has put them into survival mode is the chaos mode. And that has a rhythm that's a vibrational rhythm that's, I hate to keep using chaotic, but that's the best word because it really is. It's roller coastery. It's very unstable. It's all over the place. And that's what feels comfortable. And peace does not have that rhythm at all. So in the season of our resetting, right, and rising, resetting doesn't mean pretending that the past has never happened. It means that it means that you have to know that the past is there, but we have to come into the present. And it doesn't mean to become someone completely different overnight, which oftentimes in this year of rise, people have been really struggling here and there with, okay, I'm not rising fast enough. I'm not rising to where I think I should be, but it's not about that. It's about that reset. It's about that. It's becoming someone every day that you want to be. Are you living that person that you want to be? Are you setting yourself up every day for success of, I'm taking accountability and responsibility for who I want to be today. If I misstep, because no one's perfect, if I misstep, am I actually doing something to change where I've misstepped in my path? Or am I just brushing it off and saying like, yeah, okay, I did it. I'll just fix it later. Because then you're just going back to the chaos. So for me, resetting means giving myself permission to build a life that isn't centered around survival. And you know, some of us grow up in massive chaos. Some of us grow up in a little bit. Everybody has a little chaos. So when I say for me, it's like important that you put the for me for whatever that is for you, because you might not identify yourself as having chaos because normal for you might be the chaos and you don't think that that's not that you might think that that's normal. So resetting means giving yourself permission to build the life that isn't centered around that survival periscope up mode anymore or as much, right? So it means slowing down enough to notice who I actually am underneath all the coping mechanisms, all the defensiveness, all the resentments, all the things that you developed just to make it through. People often will just do things to make it through. It was a great my computer keeps dinging at me. It was one of the greatest scenes, even though it's just a rom-com in couples therapy. If you've ever seen the movie with it's got
it's a big cast,
a huge cast, like 6 big cast members, and of course they all have slipped my mind of who they are right now, but funny and hysterical and all that. But one of the therapist moments is that the couple looks at each other and they both say, yeah, we just make it through, and the therapist looks at them and goes, interesting, you make it through. And there's more to it, but it's such a great moment in that movie because it's so true about how people feel that they just if they just make it through every day, that's good. Why make it through? Why not make it like amazing for yourself? Why not, make it quality? Making it through seems so,
it's a low bar.
It's a low bar, and it's an easier bar in some ways, because that means if you have an expectation level up here and you fall short of that, then you have to go into survival mode. But if you have an expectation bar here and you're realistic with what is in between, and that you're adjusting in the chaos, and you make it into something that is much more about living in the moment, not just getting through, you'll come out of the survival mode. So when you slow down enough to really notice who you actually are underneath the coping strategies, you develop different coping strategies and more healthy mechanisms, so you don't have to just say, I'm making it through. I'm surviving. People, you ask them, how's your day? I'm surviving. Now, there's a psychological phenomenon under that in a lot of ways
Yeah.
of people saying, I'm surviving, or the sarcastic, I'm living the dream. That always strikes me as,
Yeah.
obviously there are people being funny, but it also says a lot psychologically about that person. So one word that's become really important to me, as you know, through this year is integration and being able to integrate this work. And integration means that you don't have to reject the versions of yourself that have struggled. It just means that you have to honor those and integrate new things in to help struggle less. And so, because the reason why all these things have come up and I'm breaking them down even more is because I had a little time, because we didn't have the show last week, but I've had a little time to really think about like all the questions that have come up in the past 6 months about this particular portion of my rise year. And I think that talking about integrating is often one of the most difficult things for people to do. You can talk about the concepts and the theory all day long about, resetting your mindset and standing up and standing out and evolving. But you actually can't get to any of the R, you can't get to the S and the E of any of that. You can rise, you can talk about it all day long. People can intellectualize. But the integrating piece, the applying piece is the spot where people really sort of fall down, right? So integrating is about not rejecting that piece of yourself that you have struggled with. It's about taking the struggles and making them more present. And you don't have to be embarrassed by them, which is people hide behind that. So their reason not for changing is because they'll hide behind embarrassment. They pretend that things haven't existed, or they've swept them under the carpet. And I'm asking people to realize that every version of you serves a purpose. If you're repeating the same patterns over and over again and not going anywhere, and you're just getting by and just getting through, that should be a signal to you that you're not integrating anything new and you're living a deprived life in a lot of ways. And you think you're happy because you've told yourself, I'm okay, but are you? Because usually
Yeah.
I find that there's the anxious version of yourself as that person. There's the people pleasing version of that. There's the
You're
hyper.
just doing that grade over again, or that class over again, because you haven't learned the lesson.
Right. And there is a lesson, but people are like, well, what lesson is it? And I'm like, you have to find it, right? So
Yeah.
if you're the anxious version of your chaotic self, if you're the people pleasing version, if you're the hyper independent where like no one can help you because you come to only count on yourself because people aren't there for you. If you're the version that stayed quiet because you've learned, like in a relationship, that speaking up doesn't do any good because you just get bypassed and you get like kind of pushed off and like, you get yes to death.
Yeah.
The version of you that's overworked, over responsibilityed, those are versions of you that help you survive, but surviving and living are not the same thing. So here's similar to like integration or application. Surviving and living are not the same thing. Living is peaceful, surviving is chaotic. And by and large, I see, I would say a vast majority of human beings live in survival mode, as we have talked about over the years, because, it's the bear in the back of the cave. We're hardwired into, searching for things. But we also, when we are born into chaos, and that's what we know, survival is our MO, not living, right? And living is peaceful versus survival. So integrating that means honoring who you have been without allowing the survival patterns to control who you're becoming. And you have to really be able to, with wide open eyes, really look at yourself to say, oh man, I am in survival mode. Drinking is a good example. Like if you are an ismed person and you have had to, if you're still drinking or using drugs, or you're an overeater or an undereater restrictor, or if you're a gambler, those are survival patterns to control who you have been, to manage let's say the fucked up feelings.
Yeah.
That was the
Why
one
not?
those are the words that were coming out. Those are all managing the fucked up feelings that you've never really dealt with, that you know are there. And because when you're doing the behaviors that aren't good for you, that make you survive, you know, at least on under the surface, that you're doing it because those signals are there. They're sending the signals to you. So
This is back to, isn't it? And I don't know what you label the concept. I always label it the observer position, where too many people live in their brain, and their brain is in survival mode all the time. But
exactly.
you are not your brain. You are not. Your brain is an organ that protects you and is in
Right.
survival mode all the time. There's a consciousness view that's above that, and you have to learn to separate the two, because too many people don't separate the two and just live with what the brain is barking at them on a day-to-day basis.
Right. So you just took and said exactly what I'm saying in a nice little metaphor. But yeah, it's survival versus living mode. And
Yeah.
so yes, and so that's a completely different kind of healing. People try to heal in survival mode all the time, and it doesn't work, because you will repeat
That's
the
not the
same thing.
brain's job. The brain's job is to sound alarms constantly.
Right. And to protect you. But if you could learn and trust yourself that living in peace is okay and that you'll still survive, that's such a great place to be, right? Because that's such a different type of healing for people. And I think this is where I was going with, like, the next step in the rise over the next, 5 months of the year, is something else for you to learn, is what actually, for you to be able to stand up into that healing process of feeling at peace. A lot of times people will be like, standing up means being louder about who I am, or louder, more confident, and or being tougher, or having to be perfect, or always proving a point, or seeing it like your way. And no, it's about rising up to see yourself in the ability to stand up for yourself in a quiet manner. And that doesn't mean being quiet as in, like, what I said before, where people sacrifice themselves, like, right? I go back to it. It's the basic full sentence of, it can sound like peacefulness is saying no. It can
Yeah.
sound like, that doesn't work for me and I don't want that anymore. Relationship, I'm not doing this anymore. I've had enough of this and I will not tolerate it anymore. And being at peace with that. That's a very peaceful place for people. And that's a lot of peas. That's a very peaceful place for people, right? Onomatopoeia, for people to be in it, to be able to say, this doesn't work for me. I'm not going to allow my peace, my peace bubble. I'm not going to allow my peace bubble to be destroyed because I keep allowing what works for you to overpower me, right? So there, in other words, it looks like walking away from situations that constantly are draining your energy, right? Being able to be in that peace space and standing up. Standing up means walking away from things. Now, that doesn't mean you have to walk out of your house or out of your job. It means you have to just be able to walk away and be unbothered, or try to be as unbothered, because survival mode is fight mode, right? And it's very difficult. I'll tell you that right now from personal experience. It's very difficult to just walk it back, especially when you want to be like, oh, I don't want to walk this back, especially if you talk to me like that, or if you do something, whatever. But it can look so much better for you if you practice. It's not perfect. If you practice walking away from things that constantly drain your energy or toxicity. It also means disappointing people who benefit from you not having boundaries.
Yep.
People benefit from you not having boundaries. And then when you don't meet someone's needs that they're used to, because they're used to steamrolling you, scapegoating you, guilting you, doing all those things, if you disappoint them, you have to be able to tolerate that. I have that conversation with so many people during the week that, me, I don't get guilted. So, and that's a hard thing for people, because people will be like, try to put the guilt on you, or, I have people around me all the time that try to gaslight me. And I'm like, nope. And I don't usually say you're gaslighting me. Occasionally I'll say, that's a gaslight. And then they'll be like, oh, all defensive. I'm not gaslighting you. Yeah, okay. Well, yeah, but you just got disappointed because you didn't get the result you wanted for me to do something that you wanted me to do in the way that you would try to maneuver
this
me.
is back to the basic devil you know, as opposed to the unknown, where your relationship that drains you, you know what that is, but you are afraid of the unknown, of making a decision and making a change based on that.
Exactly.
You'd rather stick with what you know because it's bad, but you know what it is. You don't know what's going on in the unknown, how the reaction is going to be, how that's going to work out for you.
Right.
So often you get stuck.
Well, and that's why people will go into their chaos loop, is because chaos loops will drag you in. They hope to drag you into what they know will get what they need out of it, which gives them a surplus charge and drains you, right?
Yep.
So it's, the vampire draining huge from you, they're vampires of your soul. And so if it means disappointing someone because you've put a boundary up, that's too bad. Or if it's making a person become more silent, it's just proving to because you put a boundary up, it's just proving to you that they're a person that you need to be away from, because they lack the capacity to meet you where you're at, because they'd rather be in chaos than at peace. And honestly, that's uncomfortable for lots of things and lots of people and lots of different types of relationships. So, and if and this is another thing I see a lot, especially if you spent years believing that your value comes from keeping everyone else happy, or making sure, the more you do, the harder you try, the more you give, the more you it's going to somehow give you brownie points to make it better, and your peace bubble is going to become enriched like that. Nope.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I have learned through professional and personal experience that is a lie. You are lying to yourself if you think that your value will come from keeping people happy and doing for others to the extent that is the overdoing, right? It just doesn't work, because all it does is lead back to chaos. It's just chaotic. And it's like, because you become exhausted, you tire yourself out doing that. So again, pointing out that healthy boundaries are not walls. They're just clarity. They're being very clarifying and useful to people to understand. I will not do that. I will not do this anymore. I will not allow that to happen. I will not participate in that. I don't want you to be near me. I don't want to be around you. I don't want to be around this. Walking it back, not having anything to say, because and it's hard, because when you're in work relationships and or friendships and or relationships, sometimes the other people or person will be like, oh, this is good because the person's not speaking. No, that's silence is not a good thing.
No.
Silence for some people who are chaos pattern likers love silence because they don't have to be uncomfortable.
Yep.
But when you have a person that's setting a boundary and silence is the response, that's actually not good for the other person, in terms of not good, it's really good for it's sending a signal that you're about to be abandoned.
Too many times people think standing up for yourself is swinging a sword, and sometimes it's just not showing up for the battle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Perfectly said. Right? It's about I'm out. And people don't realize that in your rise moments, when you really integrate that, you might find that, there's so many good writers out there and good people talking about this these days, about you might lose a lot of people along the way when you do this, but you'll find your tribe somewhere else, because there's people out there that will have self-respect with clarity. They will respect you, and they will have enough self-respect to respect themselves, to honor your clarity, that you have boundaries.
And one symptom that you struggle with this would be if how often you declare, if at all, I'm bored. I can't remember the last time I said I'm bored, right? Because I value the peace, right? It's like, okay, I got a couple minutes off. I can deal with this. I can find something to do that interests me. Too many people running around going, I'm bored, I'm bored, I'm bored. They're just lacking chaos at that point. They're not valuing the peace.
Well, and I think, yes. And I think also people also mistake that peace is not engaging in communication with people, or just being totally quiet and not participating. And that is, nope. It's that, because that means that they are creating an environment that's boring, and therefore chaos is inevitably going to exist because it's going to fire up, because
Yeah.
the environment has become boring, right? So yes, to your point, and adding into that point, right?
But you
Um,
start that value. This is one of these lessons you learn as you get older. You start to value the peace in your life, the quote unquote boring parts, because you stop caring about reactions. You stop caring about consequences. You start valuing those times in your life. And hopefully, this is a lesson you learn earlier before you get to the point where you don't care anymore, right?
yes, and yes, you would hope, but yes, I would caution on because there are people who actually don't care about the impact that they have on people when they do it in a dismissive avoidant way. There is an attachment style that is called dismissive avoidant, and that
Yeah.
piece right there are people that will use that. And if you're a person that's listening that doesn't know that you're a dismissive avoidant person, or doesn't think that they are, but they are,
Yep.
they will use that kind of skill and tactic as a survival mode, that, oh, I'll just walk away to make peace. But
Right.
actually, walking away from something without resolving something, or leaving someone hanging with uncomfortability because you've crossed their boundary, and now they're just like, well, I said I was sorry, I'm walking it back, or whatever. That's not quite the same thing. And so I put a
Fair enough. Yep.
little caveat to that, because there's
Yep.
people that think, well, yeah, but I'm keeping peace. When you've done something in and or you're participating in a chaos cycle, and you're making things crazy and chaotic, and you've done whatever, and then you think that creating peace is by being quiet, or taking a day and walking away from that. That is not the same thing. And I'm just being cautionary about people that
Yep.
are listening, to make sure that they know that there's a separation around that. Because good, healthy boundaries aren't walls of silence and walk away. They're clarifying, they're resolve based, they're solution focused, they're self-respecting and respecting of others. Um, it's a way of saying that we deserve peace. I deserve it. You deserve it. And peace doesn't come from ignoring and
Right.
dismissing and whatever. So super important distinction, right? Um, uh, and I guess in saying that, one thing I've noticed about this whole reset process of rising is that peace is so strangely unfamiliar to people.
Hmm.
People think that peace is like, I'll be silent. I just won't say anything and it will be fine. And that actually just makes people more anxious, both the person doing it and the people that they're impacting. Um, and you know, I have meta warriors in my practice that, they'll wake up and nothing will be wrong. No crisis, no conflict, no emergency, but they create it. Like, it's
Yeah.
like they wake up and all of a sudden they're like, oh, I feel okay. And then all of a sudden, instead of immediately relaxing and taking in, like, oh, I don't have like, I woke up, but all of a sudden, just like 30 seconds or a minute later, something immediately comes in, because they're so waiting, and the body's so waiting for something bad to happen. And
Hmm.
that's because they grew up that way, or they've been living in a situation that's very chaotic. And that, I would say, for people to lean into, when they do wake up in the morning and feel no crisis, they feel no emergency, they feel that, go with that relaxation. There's a little moment of peace. And if you feel like, oh, something bad might happen, noting that, maybe that would be true, but maybe there's something else. Generate a different perspective, because what's happening is your nervous system has been trained to expect that,
Hmm.
and
Yep.
you've got to honor that moment of, okay, I woke up and everything's okay this morning, and not go into the other thing, because our bodies and minds are so trained from such an early age, especially if we've grown up chaotic, that we have to find something, because the periscope will come up and just keep searching till we find something. We'll make something,
Hmm.
it will keep scanning that horizon, even when the storm has already passed. Whatever happened the day before. That's why, when people say sleep on it, it often will bring a peace over some issue or whatever. That doesn't mean it's over necessarily. Doesn't mean that whatever happened at work is necessarily is resolved, but there's usually clarity in that, and you have to honor that. And that is a huge lesson for people to heal with, because um, healing isn't just changing your thoughts, it's teaching your body that it's okay and it's safe to rest. and people run from that because that's fear, and that, I want to repeat that again. It's teaching your body that it's finally safe to rest. It's okay to rest. That doesn't mean laying down and whatever. It could be that, but it's more about just being like, okay, I don't have to scan my horizon for more stuff to come in.
And it's important to understand that peace isn't a 24/7 process. You're not searching for peace all the time. What you're searching for is that morning you just described, where maybe you have a cup of coffee and go on the deck and sit for 20 minutes.
Exactly.
Of work. That's peace. That's great.
Right.
You're gonna run into things during the course of the day. Everybody does, but
Yeah.
accept those periods of peace and enjoy
Right.
them.
And this is the thing, is this process takes time, and people are in this culture day and age are very instant gratified and have delayed gratification issues. So understanding that this peace process to rise takes time. It takes patience, which people don't have and don't want to have, because why, we're on alert mode all the time. It takes self-compassion, and by that I mean giving yourself permission to say, I can take the 5 minutes in the morning to have coffee. Like, well, look what I did this morning, right? I mean, I was like, I got stuff I have to do, and I need to make sure I make my peace, right? Because your nervous system, your body, your anxiety mode is not trying to sabotage you. It's trying to protect you using old information. And the beautiful part is that little by little, you can begin to learn something new if you do this a little bit at a time. And you begin to realize that peace isn't this open-ended emptiness. People are afraid of peace because it feels like, when you say to someone, clear your mind of all the thoughts. Well, first of all, you can't clear your mind of all the thoughts, right? It's about beginning to realize that peace spots aren't empty. They're actually the way I was thinking about this last week, because I had a moment on my deck, and this is where some of this came to me, is peace has depth. Peace gives you a space to breathe. Peace gives you time to think. It's a place to have creativeness in your mind, to laugh without feeling guilty, to be honoring yourself, to enjoy an ordinary, plain moment of just being. Sounds so cliche, but it is, because we just don't do it. It's being able to rise in your peaceful moments is to dream about the future, instead of simply surviving today, getting through. It's about seeing what comes next year. It's about that trip you want to do. It's about that wonderful thing that you've been planning on doing or wanting to do, but you just always say, oh, I can't do it, or I'm afraid to do it, or I don't have this, or I don't have that, right? It's being able to enjoy just being in that moment. And maybe that's why peace feels so unfamiliar at first. It's because it feels wrong, but it's not wrong. It's because it's so new to a person. And the concept of peace and peace bubble, when I've talked about it this year to my clients and I bring it up, I have laughter a lot from people, like a nervous giggle. They're like, and because of my fandom for Wicked, I'll often say, like, if you've seen Wicked, there's a Glinda bubble. There, you transport yourself by bubble. You have to keep like this nice, comfortable bubble around you. That it does not mean that you're keeping people out. There's a transparency about it. You're being upfront and real, because if you're listening to yourself, you can allow yourself to have all of that in that peace space. So if you're listening today and you're in your own season of rising and resetting, I really am wanting you to be encouraged to not confuse that you're unfamiliar with this with failure. Just because something will feel different and it will feel new doesn't mean that you're moving in the wrong direction. It just means that you're just moving towards something new. And sometimes, and I just in the past, I think probably because of my own stuff with my little fur baby and my child, I think sometimes I'm learning more and more, and I'm encouraging people to realize that sometimes growth is quiet. Sometimes healing is slow. It's never linear, obviously. Biggest transformations are not dramatic typically. They're not these big aha moments, even though sometimes we do have them. Transformations and growth and rising are not dramatic typically. Sometimes it looks like choosing rest rather than overworking and settling. Sometimes it's saying no and being honest instead of people pleasing. It's choosing boundaries over burnout and compassion fatigue. It's choosing yourself without feeling guilty,
Mm-hmm.
right? Taking time and doing that. And these choices might not look exciting from the outside, and it might sound really boring. Um, but they're changing your life from the inside out and not letting the externals influence you. And as you continue your journey of integrating every version of yourself, you're going to learn that you don't have to earn peace. You don't have to chase peace. You don't have to prove that you deserve it because everybody deserves peace. You simply have to stop running from it and running from yourself. So today, if peace feels scary or peace feels unfamiliar or it feels boring because you love the chaos, even though you don't want to admit you love the chaos, you have to stay with it. Because if saying like, okay, slow down, be calm, if calm feels uncomfortable, stay with it.
Yep.
If your life feels slower than it used to be, it's okay. Stay with it. Because maybe what you feel that feels uncomfortable and unfamiliar today will become your easier foundation for your, laying the floorboards tomorrow, not on sand, but on concrete.
Right.
Maybe this isn't boredom anymore. Maybe this will be something that now feels safe and you didn't realize that that's what safety feels like, and so those concepts are super important, to stop thinking that chaos is being alive. People think chaos, I'm alive. No,
Yep.
chaos does not mean you're alive. It means you're somehow getting soul sucked or you're soul sucking someone else.
Yep.
you know and that peace is not the absence of living. It's about living. That's like it's finally having the freedom to live when you give yourself peace.
It's
um,
opportunity.
yes, it's such a big opportunity. It's about becoming more fully you and who you are and honoring yourself. And as people are like, oh, Dr. Kim's gotten into this hoodoo foodoo schmoodoo. No, it's really about making yourself more engaged in you and really having a strong sense of self in a different way than you have been before, because you might be confident in all these things, but you also might be in this chaotic mode.
And it's going to make you stronger and better for the non-peaceful parts of your life too.
Yes, exactly. So before we go today, right? I'm not leaving yet, but it is a little bit short of a show today because I was really concise today. But before we go, I wanted to leave people with a question to sit with this week. You don't have to answer it right now. Think
Okay.
about it. Take your time, right? Because it's about taking your time. But think about, where in your life have you mistaken chaos for feeling alive? And what might become possible if you allowed yourself to trust peace instead?
Mm.
Just notice like what comes up today. Notice where your body feels resistance, where your mind starts looking for problems, where you feel the urge to fill every moment with noise. Maybe that's a sign that something's wrong. And maybe it's a sign that you're learning what safety feels like one way or another. But I would really, really encourage you to ask yourself, where in your life have you mistaken chaos for feeling alive? And what would be possible if you allowed yourself to trust peace instead and choose that? Such an important question. I think you should ask yourself.
Go have a cup of coffee, sit on the deck, and contemplate it.
Yeah, contemplate it right now. You could sit on the toilet and contemplate that. You could do
Yeah.
it in your car. Have to have something humorous to add to it, but I just think that this is an important skill for people to have. I put a lot of thought and time into to questions that people have been giving me. I had that week off to really put this together for everybody to really help with the RISE process. And this is kind of like a mid-year summary and trajectory forward.
I like it.
So, right. So until next time, I'd ask people to keep choosing peace, keep honoring your growth. Remember, healing isn't about becoming someone new. It's about becoming a person that you come home to, who you've always been and you haven't been honoring.
Nice summary.
Thank you. See, I told you I was working for the people. Right? But yes, everybody go out and have a fabulous week.